Today I'm going to be showing you the relationship between the radians and the degrees. So we have our circle here, we have an angle theta, we have our radius r, we have our arc length s. Now, imagine this. Imagine that instead of angle theta, it's the angle between the two arms, the two radii. So in this case, I'm opening up from this arm and follow my pencil, follow the pencil as it moves. I'm opening up from this arm, going this way, until I reach this arm. And the angle that I will create between those two arms will be theta. Now what I want you to imagine is, what if this arm opens up and moves around the whole circle, like where my pencil is moving. Moves around the whole circle, moves around the whole circle, moves around the whole circle, and ends up where it was. What would be the angle theta then? Well, theta would be 360 degrees. Theta would then be 360 degrees. Okay, degrees. And in this case, I'm using degree measure. So if my arm starts here and then moves around the whole circle, goes back to where it was, then the angle moved around the whole circle would be 360 degrees. What would be my S then? Well, my S, this arm has moved around the entire length of the circle, so my S would simply be equal to the circumference of the entire circle. Okay? So the S would be equal to C, which is equal to 2 pi r. Remember, C just means circumference, and you know that the circumference of a circle is pi d, where d is the diameter, which is equal to 2 pi r, where r is the radius of the circle. So if my arm moves around the entire circle, my theta would be 360 degrees, and the S in this case, which would be the length of the arc that this arm has moved, would be the circumference of the circle, because the arm has moved around the entire circle, so S would be 2 pi r. Now, my theta is 360 degrees, but what about if I wanted my theta in radians? Well, how do I get my theta in radians? This formula. Remember in my previous video, I stressed the point that this theta here is equal to radians. When you take the arc length and then divide it by the radius, the answer that you're going to get is the angle theta in radians. So if I want this 360 degrees in radians, I'm going to take my S and then divide it by r. But what is my S? Well, my S, as I have seen, is 2 pi r. Okay, my S is 2 pi r. And my r is simply r. It's simply the radius of the circle. So my theta in radians would be equal to 2 pi r over r. And what that means is my theta, again in radians, would be equal to 2 pi. 2 pi radians, okay, would be equal to 2 pi. This bracket here, I'm just trying to say that the unit for this is radians. So my theta would be 2 pi radians. So 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi radians. So in other words, 2 pi radians is equal to 360 degrees. This is, remember, pi is just 3.14, okay, that number. So 2 pi radians is equal to 360 degrees. Dividing both sides by 2, pi radians is equal to 180 degrees. Dividing both sides by pi, 1 radian is equal to 180 over pi degrees. So if you want to convert from radians to degrees, you're simply going to multiply by 180 over pi, because 1 radian is equal to 180 over pi degrees. And 180 over pi degrees is if you plug it in your calculator, 180 divided by pi, you're going to get I think 57.3 degrees, if I'm not mistaken, 57.29 degrees, something like that. So this is how you convert from radians to degrees. Same applies if you do it the other way around. Um, so if you want to convert from degrees to radians, you simply multiply by pi over 100, 180. So that's how you convert from radians to degrees and from degrees to radians. So let's look at an example. Let's look at the angle 271 degrees. 271 degrees, okay? You simply multiply pi pi over 180. So that would simply be 270 multiplied by pi over 180. 271 multiplied by pi over 180. So that would be 271 multiplied by pi over 180, and that would be 4.73 radians. 4.73 radians. If you want to convert from radians to degrees, then you multiply by 180 over pi, and so on and so forth. So you're supposed to remember this. It's supposed to be on your fingertips. It's supposed to be at the back of your head, because these conversions are going to become very important. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. This brings me to the end of the video on how you convert from radians to degrees and from degrees to radians. Until next time.